Baseball's back as of today, and so is the continuing subject at hand, unfortunately. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins in the same place that you found this. It's Pirates versus Phillies. That's a 6:40 p.m. first pitch at PNC Park. Aaron Nola against Martin Perez. The best baseball team anywhere against the one that Ben Cherington still doesn't believe in. You know, and not to be that guy, but that is and has been and will continue to be the subject at hand. I don't know how it couldn't be, because on one hand, there are fans who are committed enough to press play on a program called Daily Shot of Pirates on a regular basis, and I'm grateful for that. But it's got to be tough for them, meaning for you, to believe when the guy running baseball ops visibly, demonstrably doesn't believe. And if that sounds, manufactured or over the top or whatever, look, you can take it however you want. Here's how I take it. We're now 5 years into this process with this front office. We're now 96 games into year 5. The Pirates having gone 48-48. They're hanging around. They're still in the wild card race. But in all that time, watching all those games, experiencing all those outcomes, presuming that they move him beyond the analytics, the closest he's come to lifting, to even budging a pinky finger toward addressing this offense was to add Joey Bart from the Giants. Now, that's been a really neat move. I'm here to applaud that and any other neat moves that he'd have made. But that was the only one. And what that tells me, and what it should tell everyone, if you're paying more attention to what it is that they do than what they say, is that he, the general manager, would prefer to not invest either dollars or other potential trade capital toward improving this roster. That's not some sort of wacky conspiratorial territory there either. It just might mean that this is what he sees as unfolding in the days ahead, but he obviously can't say so. And my goodness, I'll at least give him credit for that. But here they are, the Phillies with the best record. I went over on yesterday's show. The following 8 series are against opponents who currently have a winning record. 2 trips out to the West Coast. And it doesn't actually lighten up a whole lot after that either. Add into that the pitching uncertainty, and by that I mean the starting pitching. That's not a knock on it. Far from it. They've been great. But they're not all around right now. Both the Pirates and the Phillies put out their probables for the weekend, and the Pirates, after throwing Perez tonight, have Luis Ortiz tomorrow, and then Marco Gonzalez Sunday. Now, both Ortiz and Gonzalez did well in their starts just before the break. Perez has been hit and miss since coming off the IL, and they're facing, Bryce Harper and all those guys. Why? Well, we're not going to know until later today from Derek Shelton if, as I've expected for a while now, the Pirates were going to seize this weekend to get Paul Skeens a break, start pushing some of his innings back toward later in the season. The same would apply to Mitch Keller, who completed the first half of the season with a brief outing this past Sunday in Chicago. And for that matter, how's Jared Jones coming along? So all of this isn't as tidy as it was maybe, 2-3 weeks ago when everybody was just rolling. And maybe that too is part of what Cherington sees. But he isn't invested in this. Not yet. And that tells me so much more than anything that we could pick apart and parse in every syllable that he speaks each Sunday morning, or whenever he has media availabilities. He's hanging on. Again, I don't want to sound like the weirdo here. I don't want to say he's hoping that they lose or whatever. I'm saying that he's anticipating that they'll lose. There's a difference. And it doesn't seem to cross his mind, let alone that of anyone over his head, that the games that have already gone by, the stuff that's already floated under the bridge, could have made a difference. And it didn't have to be anything dramatic. This is the other point that I keep making, but it's true. You don't need to add 2-3 bats. You do to make the lineup competitive. You don't to make the team competitive, because the team doesn't need that many more runs given the caliber of the starting pitching. But even that was too much to ask. Note the past tense when we come back, J1Q. This portion of Daily Shot of Pirates is brought to you by our friends at North Shore Tavern, that's directly across Federal Street from PNC Park. It's home of Steak on a Stone, an eating experience, underscoring the word experience. The steak is brought to you partially cooked on an 800-degree stone, and you do the rest. It's a ton of fun, it's a great meal, and it's a baseball atmosphere like no other in Pittsburgh. North Shore Tavern, right across Federal Street from PNC Park. Today's J1Q comes from Keith, and it is straight to the point. DK, wouldn't it be great if the Pirates had a GM who wanted to help his team win instead of waiting for it to lose? Keith, the answer to that is yes. But I'm going to throw more onto your question here. My most grave concern regarding the future of this franchise is that the people, that's plural, not just Ben Cherington, atop this structure aren't competitive in the way that you need to be competitive. Now, here again, this is one of those statements that I make frequently, and it might come across as over the top or, wow, how can you say that? They're running a sports team. What do you mean they're not competitive? And as such, I'm going to emphasize again that it's competitive in the right way. If everything about this organization, again, at the very top, that means Bob Nutting, that means Travis Williams, that means Cherington, if all of the efforts were pulling in the same direction with the same singular priority, it doesn't mean there aren't other priorities, but the same singular chief priority of, winning. Not necessarily winning a World Series, not necessarily, winning a pennant, winning something, winning enough to get into the playoffs, winning enough to instill real hope, winning enough to give everybody involved a chance. That isn't there. That isn't there. I can say this without hesitation, without feeling like I'm some kind of wacko conspiracy theorist. And that ultimately is the responsibility and the burden, if it's not done well, of the owner, of the guy at the very top. And if you go back over Nutting's hires since taking over as controlling owner in 2007, the only person that he's had, this pains me to say this, but the only person that he's had who had that kind of burn in him was Frank Coonelly, who really wasn't somebody that Nutting found. That was someone who was assigned to him, essentially, by Major League Baseball's commissioner's office whenever Nutting came to them and said, what do you got for me here? Because I have no idea what I'm doing regarding this particular position. Eventually, and you're going to have to trust me on this one, Nutting and Coonelly weren't seeing eye to eye on much of anything, including his attitude and his approach. But everyone else has been these, man, I'm struggling to find words here to say this without sounding mean, but why bother? These comatose people who would rather focus on things like their draft processes or the discipline within the operation, or in Williams's case, just keep all eyes on the business side and don't be bothered by baseball. And it's all bad. And the thing is, it's actually so much worse than what gets commonly portrayed, which is they're all nutting sycophants and they're all conspiring to help him save money and this other weird stuff that doesn't add up, actually, if you're familiar with the situations from the inside. That's not it. It's this. It's that he hires people who operate in the same way that he does. And it's problem number one with this franchise, with such a big bullet toward number one that there isn't even a number two that's worth discussing. And yet it's what everyone discusses. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. We're going to do another one of these on Monday.